Hey folks, welcome back to another episode.
I've been a little bit busy.
So I'm going to talk to you today about dealing with contractors, especially during this time. A lot of people are pinched for money, and that includes the contractors. And so there's some sneaky and dangerous stuff going around. So I'm going to teach you how to deal with contractors properly and legally, and so you're safe and they don't take you for a ride. Also, going to be talking about scammers, which right now is prime pickings, and also touch a little bit on the censorship issue that Trump is going to be releasing information on today. But before I get into that, please hit that like button. It needs to turn blue. Then hit subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff, the necessary stuff. That way you can be following this channel, and then that helps other people find this channel as well. And you like that X-Wing? It's nice. And then that pillow is a gift, but it says it's a periodic table, and it says I use this pillow periodically. Yeah, I like that one. Okay, let's get into it. So first things first, the whole issue, the censorship issue with Trump and what he's trying to do is, if you guys haven't noticed, then just kidding. When you go on Facebook, or if you go on these other social media platforms, and you post anything that's against their agenda, if they don't outright censor you, what they do is there's an algorithm that keeps your post from being viewed by other people. And if it does get viewed by other people, it's usually only a very small handful. That way they can get away with it. For instance, if I post something that's very Democratic agenda based, then all of a sudden it shows up on the top views. It's instantly on everyone's wall and on the video platform and all that stuff, and it's viewable by a lot of people. But if it's Republican based and it's against their agenda, all of a sudden it's only a few people get to see it, and you don't really see it up on anybody's wall, and it's not apparent on the video little platform that they have, and it's all just algorithms. And so it's a way for them to be sneaky about it. And that's what Trump is talking about with the censorship, and that's not okay. The free market needs to have free speech, period. No censorship whatsoever. Just maybe maybe like bleeping out the cuss words, or maybe nixing straight up derogatory remarks. But as far as free speech goes, just expressing a mature opinion or fact or whatever, then it needs to be 100% free and available to all, just like everything else. That is important for the future of our country. And to us as individual citizens, we have to have a voice. I mean, just look through history when people were silenced. When people don't have a voice, bad things happen. So let's stay a free country, let's stay a free market, and let's stay mature about this stuff. Next is scammers. So right now it's going crazy. The internet's lighting up. Your text messages, your phone calls, emails, everything. And they're getting more sophisticated every day. In fact, I just got one this morning that was pretty stupid. And it was just a really ugly looking email. It basically said, hey, we're trying to get in touch with you. Please call us back, or click this link so you can find out what we're trying to call you about. It's like, obviously you're trying to rope me in, hook me into something bad. So just right now during these times, the only thing I can say is there's no real way to identify each scam, because there's just so many of them. But just be super vigilant about being skeptical and just treating everything as BS right now. Just everything, just assume that it's BS, and you'll probably be a little bit safer. On to the last thing. So dealing with contractors. When you want to deal with a contractor, the best thing to do, let's take, for instance, you're redoing your roof or your floor. You want to get a minimum of 3 bids from licensed contractors. And make sure that you ask for that license. They'll have one. So get a copy of their driver's license. Get all the necessary information about these people that will be on your property. The best thing too is anybody that will be on that property, you need to get their driver's license as well. That's a little bit above and beyond what you need to do, but if you're really gonna be safe, everybody that's on your property, you need to have their information just in case. I have had a couple of my properties robbed after the fact, more than a couple, but because I had every individual person's information, the police were able to go track down one of the employees and found my stuff in his shed at his house. So it's beneficial. It helps you. It's always better safe than sorry. So have all the information that you possibly can on everyone that will be working on your property. Next is once you pick a winner, you're gonna get all that information. It's called onboarding paperwork, which is just their license, their insurance, making sure that you're claimed as an additional insured, making sure that their insurance covers their employees or anybody that they're gonna be bringing onto your property, because you don't want one of the employees not be covered and then all of a sudden you're liable. And the way that you can be liable is another thing that contractors like to do is they like to get you to buy the material. Now, per the IRS, if you're providing material and a job site, you are an employer. So you're not hiring a subcontractor, you are the employer, and you're liable to all of the employer liabilities for your employees. So make sure that that doesn't happen. You're just hiring a contractor, a subcontractor, who will then have a separate contract for a certain amount of work, and they will provide all materials and all labor, and you're just gonna pay a certain amount, period. That's it, keep it simple. Next is they're gonna send you a invoice. Make sure that it's not just some rando invoice just with a number on it and saying roof done, $3,000, whatever. It has to be detailed. It has to be itemized. It has to have a quantity amount, because if your roof is only, let's say 10 squares, but yet they're ordering 20 squares worth of material, what they're doing is they're buying enough material, making you pay for it, and then they're using that leftover material on a future job site. And then that way they can charge them material, but they don't have to pay for it themselves, so they get to collect more. So they're robbing you. Also, forgot to mention, when you're having contractors walk through your property or evaluate the potential job, watch them describe exactly what needs to be done and understand the process. You'll get to know, the more people that you interview, the more you'll see who's qualified and who's not. So I've had some people that can really come in, eyeball it, and just know within a few minutes, like, hey, I know exactly what this is gonna take. I'll get you an invoice by tomorrow. And that's fine, because I can just read their understanding of the project and understand that they have enough experience where they don't need to take notes. But then you've got some people that will come and they'll kind of poke at stuff and look at it for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of like just BS is what they're doing. But they don't take any notes, and then they're like, well, okay, all right, we'll get back to you. No, I mean, you've already lost it in my book. Also, you've got people that will come in and take detailed notes. These are the ones I love. They'll come in and take detailed notes, pictures, and they're ready. Those are the ones I will hire for sure, even if they cost a little bit more. You get what you pay for. So, of course, there's fluctuation in that. Sometimes you've got some really overpriced contractors that do really under quality work, and that's sad to say, but it actually happens quite a lot. So sometimes you'll always get those contractors that are like, well, hey, I charge a lot, but I'm worth every penny. No, you're not, dude. And so until I know that you're worth every penny, then you're going to give me the bottom dollar amount if you want this job, because you're going to need to do a couple jobs for me first before I'll start to trust what you say. I take proof by action, not by words. So you've approved a certain contractor, they've sent you the invoice, the scope of work, whatever the detail amount of work that's needed. You don't need a scope of work unless you're doing several things. Usually, if a contracting company can put up your sheetrock, they can do your trim, they can then paint your walls. That'll be all separate. And then you're going to want a scope of work because technically those are different job categories. But if they're just coming in to do your roof or your floor, that's simple. Just an invoice is fine. Make sure that you get W-9s on your contractors as well. You will be sending them out 1099s if you are a business. If you're just a regular person that's just getting work done in your house, you don't have to do that. Don't worry. So now the contractors are going to send you a request for 50% down payment.
Do not, I repeat,
Do not ever pay 50% up front. That is how most people get screwed. You'll pay them 50%, they'll come and they'll get started, but then they won't finish and they'll walk out on the job. The reason why they do that is because if they take your money but do not even start the job, then you can get the attorney's office involved. You can get your full money back. You don't even need to go to court sometimes. It's pretty much a shut case. But if they do get started, then you have to prove how much work they did, blah, 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 blah. So they know how to make things complicated for you and get away with snaking you. Or what they'll do is they'll come, get started, do a little bit of work. Looks like they've done a lot of work, but not really. It's fake looks. And then they'll kind of tell you like, yeah, we're already almost done. We're going to wrap this up by tomorrow. If you could just send that last payment and then we'll be all done tomorrow. Well, you get that last payment and they never finish and they walk off and you're left holding the bag. Approximately only maybe a quarter of the work was actually done. So you just paid 100% of the price, only got a quarter of the work. However, when you do that, now you've got to hire a contractor to come out, and typically new contractors do not like working on top of other contractors' work. So what they're going to do is they're going to have to kind of redo some of that work as well. Sometimes it's because it wasn't done properly to begin with. So now they've got to take all that out and restart from scratch. So now you're left with a brand new 100% scope of work that needs to be completed, and you're going to be charged double basically. So do not pay 50% up front. So how do you structure this? You structure this by paying, the way I like to do it, is depending on the amount of work and the type of work. Pay 10% just to start. After they start, within a day or two or a week, you then pay a third, the remaining amount of the third. So you'll break things into thirds. And so you'll pay 10% up front. Within a couple days, you pay them a third. And then by the time that they reach a halfway point or an ending point where they're doing what's called tap outs or finish outs, then at that point, you're going to pay another third, and there'll be a third left for the final. Now, depending on the size of the job, what you can do is pay the remaining third, but leave 10% for a final inspection. So for instance, if they really finished your house, that's great. Everything's done, permits are executed, it looks good to you. You can then pay that 90% done, keeping the last 10% until you get an actual full-blown inspection done on the house to really find out if they missed or messed up anything. And then once that inspection is passed, you can then release the remaining 10% and they're fully paid. If it's a smaller job, I would just say stick to thirds. So flooring, pay a third only when they get started. So once they show up that day and they've got material on site and they're ready to start, you write them that check for a third. That way their main boss can go cash it while their workers are beginning to work. Another thing that I recommend is finding contractors that can take credit cards. Sometimes you're going to get contractors that will charge you an extra 3% or 5% because it's a credit card, and that's fine. I try to find the ones that don't, that just eat the 3 to 5%. But the reason why I charge credit card is because it keeps you safe. Now, as contractors, this is not a video on how to protect contractors, because there are some good contractors that have gotten screwed by bad investors or bad people that will fake pay and then retract the money later. That is not okay. But what this credit card does is keeps you safe from bad contractors. So if a contractor gets started on your work, or even if they finish the work, like has happened to me a few times, they'll finish the work, then you'll have an inspection done, and I've already paid them 2/3 of the amount, only to find out that all the work they did has to be completely redone because it was done incorrectly and the city won't even close it out. Because of that, I've been able to go to my credit card company and dispute this amount. Now, this disputal is pretty quick process. Typically, it's insured, so I get my full refund back within a month or less. And that's a good way to keep yourself safe and protected, but also allowing the contractor to get their payment, and then hopefully you don't do that to a good contractor. So I was talking about permits. Make sure before anybody steps foot on your job site that they have the proper permits pulled and posted. Now, they're gonna say, well, permits are digital now, and that's true, but you still want them to just print one out, post it on the door. That way, people that are walking by, people that are driving by can see it, or you can see it, and it just makes everybody feel more comfortable. Like, hey, here's the permits, they're posted, and it just feels better. Right now, especially in San Antonio, strike force is going crazy. They're abusing their power, and they're going and shutting down so many job sites. It's gotten to a problem to where you'll actually have the proper permit pulled, but because it's missing a couple little things, they'll shut your whole thing down. It's getting ridiculous. So be safe, be careful, make sure proper permits are pulled and posted. Last thing, guys, is just making sure that your valuables are secure. You'll have contractors that might be good people, but the people that they bring on might be just not good people. So what do I mean by that is, for instance, a contractor is a good dude, but he needed help and his cousin just got out of jail and he wants to help him out and give him work. That cousin comes and scopes out your property, and then he comes back later when your property's vacant, breaks in, steals your water heaters, your refrigerators, all your valuable appliances, and takes off with your stuff. So this will just keep you safe, and also you might want to invest in lighting, proper lighting, and Simply Safe is what I use. Don't have a link in the description. I probably should, but I use the motion detection cameras, and it's great because I can just easily keep it on and it's constantly watching. A lot of people are gonna say, well, cameras don't work. Yes, cameras don't catch bad guys, but they'll catch them in the act. And when I have your face or mask or type of clothing or your sneakers, your favorite Jordans that were on your feet, and all of a sudden it's like, I recognize those Jordans. That's Bobby. There you go. Now you know who your culprit is and you can give it to the authorities. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.